On this week's show, we're discussing the PlayStation concert myself and Richie attended this past week, reviews for Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Expedition 33 are in, plus one of the biggest games of the year has a release date finally. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we get together to round up all of the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Just search for GamerGuild TV or the GamerGuild Podcast, and you'll find us there every week, 8 a.m. Monday. We go live into all of the world and all of the ether. Your podcast players for the week are myself, Chris at Arcane Rogue, and my man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, indeed, and welcome back, of course. Rob stood in for me last week while I was away on a stag do in Prague, so thank you very much to Rob. Thank you for everyone who tuned in, of course. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring-a-ding-ding that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here at GamerGuild TV, like these very live streams, like our weekly live streams where we sometimes play games. Richie, we've got Pokemon Blue going at the moment for our wonderful folks out there in the wild, in the grass, waiting for that Pokemon jingle to kick in. And, of course, every Wednesday, Richie, at the moment, we have a very special limited run series going where myself and you review every episode of HBO's The Last of Us. So if you've not been watching The Last of Us, it's just this kind of little show that's like taking over the world right now. What an episode this week, Richie. We won't get into it, but if you're behind on the show slightly, this is the week to get into it, right?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing episodes. We have the Clickercast every single Wednesday, so if you want to know our views on it, click over there.
Click over there, indeed. And we should also point out that it is available on audio feeds. I know some people prefer these mediums to come through their ears on the commute and when they're maybe doing the gardening or they've got a bit of time off work or maybe when they're working. So if you're working along, enjoy all of our content out there as well. But before we get into the thick of everything, we always like to start our shows with just talking about what we've been playing this week, Richie. So over to you. Kick us off. What have you been playing the last 7 days?
So I actually rolled credits on Pokemon Violet for the first time ever.
Wow. How long?
I haven't got a clue. How long is always a terrible question to ask me because I often just leave my console on standby. I'll get onto it. But the other game I've been playing, I showed my girlfriend my game time. I was like 35 hours, and she's like, you haven't played that long. You've played nowhere near that long. Because sometimes if I'm playing on the portal, just turn the portal off, but forget that my PlayStation is still running.
Yeah.
Then eventually my PlayStation goes on standby after like an hour.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll certainly do it.
So it just adds up so much time. So I literally have no idea. I reckon probably about 50 hours or something. But when I'm playing Pokemon, I'm trying to capture everything. I'm mooching around everywhere, picking up everything that's around. I'm not going straight to the objective and playing this.
Got to catch them all, right?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Is it whetting your appetite then for a new Pokemon later on this year, do we feel? Or is it satiating your Pokemon appetite instead?
Well, I almost bought the DLC, but then another game Shadow dropped that changed my mind on it. The money went elsewhere.
Absolutely.
But I was always 100% in on Pokemon Legends because I loved Legends Arceus. So I'm all in on that game when it drops.
Wonderful. Well, not too long now. It's we're getting up to the halfway point of the year already somehow, so you'll have no doubt time. And yes, we'll get into the said stealth drop mystery game in a short while because it is part of our news this week. I myself have been playing South of Midnight still, continuing on through that. Really, really enjoying it. I think it's shaping up to be my possibly game of the year so far. I think everything that appeals to it from our first look, which is available on the channel, by the way. Go check that out. Myself and Richie jumped into the first hour or so of the game. It's just everything I expect out of a video game for what ticks my boxes, and that's you've kind of got like really fun, simple gameplay, really great characters, beautifully realized world, and I think I alluded to it on the show 2 weeks ago. Just the soundtrack is phenomenal, and I feel like I'm really been immersed in the culture of this kind of like southern US world and the kind of stuff that they live for, the values and stuff, and I'm just really enjoying it. I think I'm up to chapter 10 now out of, I want to say 14, so I'm kind of nearing not the finale, but the game's feeling like it's coming to some kind of crescendo. I've met loads of interesting characters and creatures. The combat, again, I've got the combat set I think to like the middle one, so it's not overly difficult, but I don't mind that in games. I'm not there for a Dark Souls experience every single time. Like, I love it sometimes when games just make you feel empowered. I have all the spells, I have all the abilities. Now just go kick some ass and enjoy it. And Hazel in the game, really good. But definitely, I know a lot of people in our Discord and in our comment sections have been just saying like this is an absolute standout for them this year. And I think the art style, everything combined as a package. It's great, and I'd love to see them do a sequel. And I think for Compulsion games, they've definitely kind of elevated every element of what We Happy Few was good, and then took to that next level. But one for me, absolutely love it. It's in my game of the year running so far. Obviously, a lot to play. I do need to get back to Assassin's Creed Shadows because that has just been, I think, in my head, knowing it's like a 50-60 hour at least experience. I know I'll be back to that at some time, so I've put that on the back burner. And we've got games in the news that we'll talk about, which is like, oh my word. I feel like out of nowhere we've been sucker punched. I know we get release dates for most things, but I feel like I do not have time anywhere to get around to what I want to play.
I know. I wish I didn't have a full-time job so I could just play video games all the time because there's so much good stuff coming out at the moment.
Yep, so many. But in regards to South of Midnight, because I know it was only like a 15-hour experience all around, I thought, I'm going to commit to this one because I'm enjoying it, and Assassin's Creed, I'll go back to that as like my kind of like probably game for the next quarter of the year. Anything else in between? Actually, it's the stealth drop game, isn't it? We're going to talk about for yourself.
It's the stealth drop game, yeah.
Of course. And we did go to, we should point out, we did go to the PlayStation concert this past week, so we'll have our full review later in the show of that one. Richie's wearing the merch. So if you're after some PlayStation game, is that the one with all of the characters like actually in like a concert setting, or is it just?
Yeah, that's the one. This is the the 201.
Oh, is it because I didn't know it?
It's on the back. So there was other ones like for specific games, but I went for the 201.
Now, if that's got all the tour dates, is that now an ultra rare piece of merch because some of those dates have been cancelled?
It's even rarer because I've wore it.
That too, yeah. It's got your sweat, blood, and tears.
One of a kind.
Poured into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll get onto that. We'll give you our full thoughts and breakdown and kind of what it was like being present at one of those things later on the show. But we do have a busy show full of news. So before we get into it, Richie, could you introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news.
aka the news. I hate it when you do that.
Why?
Because it ruins my animation prompt because I'm ready to click it and then you pause, and then I'm too late for it to get up in time. But yes, busy week for news, Richie, and we got some stealth drop details, a lot of game releases and kind of game reviews in this week's show, so we'll get into that. And we might even have a music quiz at the end because I know a lot of our audience enjoyed the musical gaming quiz a few weeks back. I take it you didn't play it with Rob, right?
No, we didn't.
No, he wouldn't know any of the answers anyway. Just a part-time gamer.
We didn't know most of them on the easy.
But we've been to a musical concert now, so we should be a lot better. But I digress. Story number one. Out of nowhere, there's been a week of stealth drops, quite frankly. Sucker Punch, makers of Ghost of Tsushima, released another trailer for Ghost of Yotei, and we actually got the release date. So the trailer kind of dropped, just showing up a bit more insight into the game. Of course, it's been nearly 5 years since Sucker Punch shipped Ghost of Tsushima, and they've been hard at work making Ghost of Yotei for some time. The release date comes, Richie, October the 2nd. So not too far out. It doesn't feel like at the pace this year is going. It feels like we'll have it before.
Yeah, you blink and you have it.
Yeah, the trailer gives us more insight into Atsu, who's the female protagonist for this game, her quest for vengeance. So I don't know if you've seen much of the beginning of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is going to be essentially the comparison marker for this game through and through, and
yeah,
especially when we get to the game of the year, the trailer kind of shows a family have been killed, left for dead, She's been tied to a tree. I think she gets stabbed in the trailer by like the lead enemy, and essentially shows that a couple of years have passed, and now she's returned home with a list of names, and she's there to hunt the snake, the oni, the kitsune, the spider, and the dragon, and Lord Saito. And I don't know if you've played Assassin's Creed Shadows yet, but that's very, very almost one for one of how our story unfolds in that one a little bit. I'm just curious, like Sucker Punches, like they must have staff there playing Shadows, like surely to see how they stack up, what they do better, what they could take from it.
But they're so far committed in now. Like,
yeah, this is their story.
They've probably played Assassin's Creed Shadows on release, maybe even got an early copy, but not so early that they'll be able to pivot their narrative direction so late in the process.
Like, is it in both parties' interests to share details behind the scenes so they don't clash too much, or is it in the? It's weird because like you would imagine at Sucker Punch they think like, well, we're the better game, right? So whatever Shadows do, we're going to be the better game. It's like, but does to the casual gamer,
Ubisoft be thinking, but we're the better selling game.
Exactly, and it's interesting to see where it all trickles down to. But we got a taste of what Ghost of Yotei is going to expect. Obviously, personally, I always expect Ghost of Yotei to be better because it's not a Ubisoft open world. It is a more bespoke journey, I would say.
And I don't know how far you are on Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I kind of, watching my girlfriend play, I kind of felt Act 2 just was fairly directionless.
All right.
You just had he's a bunch of people, go kill them and figure out stuff. I feel like the narrative's going to be a lot tighter from a Sucker Punch offering.
Right.
So while the base kind of premise of the narrative is going to be similar, I think how it's going to be presented is going to be very different.
Yeah, it's interesting, certainly. They did say pre-orders also begin in May, which is this week somehow. if you're not keeping up with the calendar, so get your pre-orders in. There's a couple of different editions. They've announced as like your typical digital deluxe edition. There's some pre-order content you get, and there's the collector's edition, which does come with the ghost mask. Which what's quite interesting, if you remember, the first one came with the ghost mask on like its little pedestal. It was the black one that Jin Sakai wore in the campaign. This one, it's a white and gold one. So I think if you've got both collector's editions, there's some quite cool pieces of artwork to have in your house if you have both, like a contrast of black and white. And they're not so obvious that they're gaming memorabilia either. They would quite happily fit into anyone's Japanese collection.
I think that's the trick with gaming memorabilia sometimes, is like giving something that wouldn't be weird to have around the house.
Yeah.
Was it Indiana Jones at the Globe?
Yeah. It was one that opened up as well.
Yeah, so it's a subtle thing where if you know, you know. If not, it's just a cool thing that someone's got in the house.
Yeah, I completely agree. I used to have the Assassin's Creed Odyssey one with the big Alexios doing a Spartan kick off the top of like some destroyed ruins. Safe to say my wife was like, doesn't aesthetically fit in with our living room, to say the least, which is why it was put back here in the Man Cave collection. But yeah, it does come with, of course, art cards. You get a couple of like just imagery, so you get a sash. It's one of those things I think, as if I was rich, great, I'd have space and money for these things. Where I look at it as someone who's not rich, and I just go like, wouldn't really use that. The art cards are such a filler piece of thing, aren't they? You just look at them. You get a couple of coins from I'm presuming the game, like the little mini game that's going to be within the world, Zeni Kaijiki. So you get a coin in a game pouch with that one. Probably going to be a really annoying trophy attached to that mini game, I would guess. And then the mask in the game and everything as well. And no doubt the digital copy of the game included, annoyingly enough. No steelbook, interesting enough, because it's a digital copy, which some would argue that's you're paying for the most expensive copy of the game, and you ain't getting a copy of the game.
Yeah, I find that weird for the collectors, but we've talked about it before.
It's just because they move it around every country to country, so they can't ship it with it. Probably because the copy of the game's not going to go gold until mere weeks before. And these physical editions will have been produced, manufactured, packaged. Probably now. They're probably sat in a factory now ready to just be bundled with a digital code.
It could also be part of a greater strategy to push people more into the digital side anyway, so they can slowly phase down physical release of games.
Absolutely.
So if the highest level, the highest price point, you're getting a digital copy, people will eventually just get used to that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's saturation point, isn't it? The game's going to launch at $69.99. So it's the base one. Digital Deluxe is $79.99, and then obviously your local equivalent. And the collector's edition, does it have a price on the collector's edition? Can't see it anywhere. Not on the Eurogamer article from what I can see. That's a choice. Probably 120, I would guesstimate. But in terms of the game, now we've had a bit of time to sit on it, Richie, and we've both experienced Assassin's Creed Shadows. What's your hunger for Ghosts of Yotei as it stands?
I've just seen the price for the collector's edition.
More than 120?
You were nowhere near.
Really?
You were nowhere near. I mean, I've only gotten dollars and euros in front of me. €249.99 or dollars.
Right, so it's going to be about 220, 30 quid then.
And that's taken from the PlayStation blog.
Damn. That is...
That's spicy.
That's definitely out of my market. But,
yeah.
Yeah, so the game, though, in any way, is this a day one purchase for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend were talking about it. We're probably going to have to buy 2 copies of this game rather than sharing because we both want to play it straight away. So what we said is we'll probably buy 2 copies and just trade one in when she inevitably finishes it before me.
Absolutely. It's the reality of a gamer.
Yeah,
I'm the same. There's a few PlayStation studios, especially, that I'll be there for day one, and this is one of them. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it now. I think I'm going to enjoy Shadows, and then inevitably get to the back end of the year, play this, and go, it just did everything better. Like a tighter story, tighter gameplay. Visually, it's always going to look better because a first-party studio has just that dedicated time to learn the software better. Hence why
I don't know when I'll play Shadows because now we're the other side of Shadows and other stuff is starting to come out and drag my attention away. Because when I was playing Pokemon, part of me was thinking I'm going to finish Pokemon and then I might switch over to Shadows. I was largely waiting for my girlfriend to finish Shadows before I started playing it, but then I saw engrossing other stuff with Indiana Jones and Pokemon. I thought Shadows is probably up next. And then other stuff's happened, my interest has been pulled away, and now I'm looking at it going, do I want to play Shadows, or do I just wait for Ghost of Yotei?
Yep. There's and you wonder why no one gets back to DLC. I saw the announcement today of Star Wars Outlaws has got some kind of pirate DLC imminent, and I thought I haven't even thought twice about that just because I just don't have the capacity to get back to it.
Nat's literally played it.
Oh well, there you go then. Love it.
I think it's only about 5 hours.
Yeah, they never are long, but I enjoyed the game. But again, it's prioritization. So just like our audience out there, let us know in the comments below if you're excited for Ghosts of Yotei, if you're currently playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, how you think they're going to stake out. I'm imagining Ghosts of Yotei is going to be in some Game of the Year conversations. I feel like, unfortunately, Shadows with the Ubisoft stink that it has on it is going to be demoted down to like just kind of another category.
I said before, like I thought Shadows looked amazing when it opened up, but I think it just starts getting a bit the narrative. Ubisoft are amazing at narratives; they really, really are. But then they seem to focus on making the open world. So rather than having a tight narrative through that game, they just give you these circles, which are your missions to go find and kill stuff. Rather than having it story driven, I don't know. I feel like the narrative lost a bit of steam. During Act 2.
I think
the ending's meant to be amazing, though. I haven't seen the ending, but it's meant to be amazing.
Right, well, I'll hopefully get to that in about 2 years. In terms of the Ghost of Yotei story, the one thing I am really interested to see is how they pick up without the main character of Jin Sakai, because you say about storytelling there. They're starting from scratch again here, because it's a new protagonist, it's a new location. That whole story we had with Jin and the Mongol invasion, nothing to do with it. We're 100 years later in a different place. So I'm hoping they can capture that magic in a bottle again and really make me care about that character, because I think the one thing Tsushima did really well was the side characters, the world, the kind of his sense of purpose, going against Lord Sakai and the traditions of samurai values. That told a great story.
It did.
And I feel like if they tread anywhere close to that again, but with someone who isn't Jin, who we've spent like 50 odd hours with at this point, it's a big decision that they made not to do a direct sequel with him.
I think it just comes down to what story you want to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they looking at the character of Jin Sakai and going, we have a story to tell beyond Ghost of Tsushima? If the answer's no, and then you're just trying to force it, why not come up with another narrative, another character? I think there will be nods to Ghost of Tsushima. I think, you know, how Jin becomes the ghost, doesn't he, effectively? I think there might be... He'll now probably be a legend.
There'll be one of those little stories that are written on the blotting paper.
Yeah, and Atsu will probably know of the legend of the ghost.
Yeah.
And that's... She maybe just looks to what Jin Sakai did in his past and embrace what he became for the sake of Tsushima, for the sake of her motivations.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be in there, so it is a sequel, kind of.
Yeah, they'll definitely have to reference an Easter egg all over the place. But yeah, curious to see, and we won't have to wait long. October 2nd, not too far away. But let's get the summer out of the way first. But speaking of games that are coming out this summer, let's move along to our second story of the week, and that is FBC Firebreak, which is the spin-off from Remedy. It's part of the Control universe. It's been dated for the 17th of June, so fans are eager to return to the oldest house. You won't have to wait long. This is the 3-player PvE Control spin-off. It was announced last October as part of one of the showcases. It's promising a cooperative take on the Control universe in which players cast as members of the Federal Bureau of Control in the Firebreak Response Unit and must keep the oldest house and numerous paranormal anomalies contained, from weird pink goo to sentient post-it notes. That sounds like a fun mission. Each job takes place at different corners of the ever-changing building, some familiar and some new, and features different mechanics, enemies and objectives, and even status effect style conditions. They did a live stream this week, Remedy, where they basically give a bit more insight into like the battle pass progression system, how the missions will come in, it being free to play as well, even though there is premium battle pass elements, a bit like it sounds like the Helldivers route, which can be purchased with real money. So there is this is basically, I feel like, Remedy attempting to get some money through the door while they crack on with these like passion projects like Alan Wake and Control, because I think they've always made money, but not quite the levels that studios, at AAA studios especially, I think require now. So this is them, I think, attempting to roll the dice and see if we can get some constant funding coming through the door. This is coming to Game Pass, we should point out as well. So they've already got a big chunk of cash from Microsoft to kind of set it up for success. But yeah, coming to PC, coming to PlayStation. And this is one where I still don't know how I feel about it, Richie, because I'm a huge Remedy fan. I think their games are phenomenal. And they very much sit in my wheelhouse of what I love. Alan Wake 2 was my game of the year 2 years ago now? Surely not. It must be right. Yeah, 2024, it must be. Yeah. Which seems mad to say as well, because people waited 10 years for Alan Wake 2 anyway. Control was amazing. I played all the DLC. I love the stuff they do with the oldest house and that connected universe of storytelling. They've totally got me in on their world. But I'm not a free-to-play PvE shooter kind of person. What are you thinking about this one? Where do you sit with it?
I'm lukewarm at best, to be honest. I think it doesn't look like Control or Alan Wake. It looks quite generic. If this wasn't made by Remedy, I don't think we'd be talking about this game.
It would just be.
I just don't. It just looks like. I mean, it's going to have some of the cool, weird stuff that you get from them, the supernatural elements, which definitely sets it apart a bit.
Yeah.
But I think visually, it's not doing anything for me at all. It looks like a lot of the generic, like, core stuff out there. This could be amazing. I still stand by. I trust Remedy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not seeing anything that make me want to drop my money on this.
Do you know what the one saving grace for me that's making me think actually it'll be a really good laugh is the fact that it's PvE. I think that's
we're streaming this. We're streaming this on Game Pass.
That's what made Helldivers so, I think, refreshing for a lot of gamers, is you weren't up against some jammy, live in your basement, play it for 20 hours a day person who's like, the game's been out 2 days and he's already kicking your ass left, right and centre, and you just can never quite get a grip in the multiplayer world because you died. We see it on stream all the time because we're so old now, is we've played like games when they've dropped, we've jumped into multiplayer Call of Duty, we've jumped into Battlefield, and we're not terrible, But at the same time, we're nowhere near as proficient as just some of the people out there on the internet nowadays. And I think as an older gamer, give me some bots to kill and hunt down as a group, and that sounds more fun immediately.
I think with us a lot is we just don't play them.
Yeah.
If we played, if that's what we did every night when we played games, we played Call of Duty or something like that, or Fortnite or whatever it is, we would probably get to that level.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I don't know
We've
about
both been there, and well, maybe not like. I don't know. I think a lot of the people we've played against are not at the absolute high level. They seem like a high level because they're completely kicking our ass. Mm-hmm. But I feel like their level is usually obtainable.
Yeah,
we're not looking at like going pro or anything. But I'm looking at FBC Firebreak, and even the post-it note, one of the trailers from Remedy from the Future Games show, the post-it note monster. I feel like it's gone a bit slapstick, a bit Fortnite-y. I think it's like aiming for a younger audience, which makes sense financially. Because even the visuals, everything I'm getting from this game is it's aiming at that younger audience, these people in maybe the mid-teens who used to playing with their friends, and that's what gaming is to them. The more multiplayer focused than single player focused like we are.
Yeah.
So it could be a financial success. It's not the game I would want Remedy to make, but there again, I'm not actually a huge Remedy fan. I enjoyed Iron Wake. Control never quite clicked for me. I've always wanted to go back because I should love that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I've only actually finished Alan Wake. That's the only Remedy game I've ever finished.
Oh, just wait till you get to 2.
So
eventually.
Yeah, eventually. But
eventually.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a stream.
Oh yeah, it's I've just realised as well it is also coming to PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, so it is going to be available readily for everyone in those subscription services, which you're talking collectively
which
probably
is a smart move,
50, 60 million players immediately have free access to it.
That actually I think could be make or break for this.
Make or fire break.
Fire break. Yeah, because it's more accessible, people are more likely to try it out. Yeah. Where I know it's not a lot of money, but the $32.99, if that was it, $32.99 wasn't Game Pass, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I think.
But because it's on Game Pass, I am going to play this. Mm-hmm. At least give it a go, and it has the chance to win me over.
Yeah, it's that. I think it could fit in nicely with that. Even though Helldivers was £30 I think if it lands well and the Battle Pass progression skin system is working well enough, I think of those 60, 70 million players who maybe just test it out because it's on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, then look at it and go, oh, you know what? That weapon skin looks good. Like you said, that younger audience who are used to dropping money on Fortnite bucks. I think getting them there, get them in the door for free essentially, and then tease them with like a £10 bundle here, a £15 skin or something here. I think that's probably the long-term, more cost-effective way of releasing this game. And as you said, if it does have a fun loop and it gets its moment in time, it could do really well. But I think it being free on those platforms, I think that's going to give it the boost it needs to really get it in the public eye. If it was 32 quid, as you said, I think it would just come and go like a Concorde, and people would go, yeah, it looks all right. It's probably fun to play. But I've got my Fortnite, my Warzone, my Apex sat there for free that I'm now... Oh, I'd hate to even imagine how many hours people have catalogued in those games collectively over the last decade now.
I think you're right in mentioning like things like the cosmetics and stuff, where I think we've grew up where cosmetics were something that you unlocked in games, and where I think we're less inclined to drop money. But there again, we're not playing persistent games. Usually we're finishing a game, then moving on to the next. So why do I want to spend £10 on a cosmetic for a game that in a few weeks I'm probably not going to touch again? Yeah,
I think we think from a more logical standpoint. But yeah, if you've got like 5 mates, you're all jumping on this new game, that sounds fun. You've been excited for it,
and you're talking in the schoolyard. Go, like last night when we did that raid. I've just bought the new Ghostbusters outfit.
All it takes is one to buy it.
I don't know why I went to Ghostbusters. But
in that group, you can see them going like, well, if we're all playing together, I don't want us all to look the same. It's almost like peacocking, like showing off to your mates. I'd imagine like, oh, well, I've just got this weapon. Oh, I just bought this skin. So you identify differently in the game world. Again, trying to think as a child here.
I feel like if that was us now, if we were in school now, we'd be more excited for this game and we'd be playing Fortnite. We'll be buying the skins and stuff. Yeah, that would be us, because I think that is what gaming is. Yeah, to the younger audience.
Don't we sound old?
Yeah, we are. We are old.
Yeah, we are. We're in our 30s. And if we lived in the world of Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, Richie, we'd be dead already. Because in this world, if you recall, there's an unfortunate timer on humanity, and every year another age bracket is ticked off, and death comes for people of that age. So Expedition 33 is the expedition of, I believe, 33-year-olds who are sent out into this role-playing world to try and take down basically the threat to humanity. And I think this is what we loved about this game the most, wasn't it? Is it's that the concept at its core is so good. But I digress. The reason we're here is the third story of the week is Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is just dropped from Sandfall Interactive and Kepler Entertainment, and it's their first game ever, and it's doing amazingly well on Metacritic. It, of course, is also released into Game Pass, so if you guys out there have Xbox Game Pass, you can play this already. It's currently sat with a 92 on Metacritic, which gives it a score of universal acclaim, and it's defined as a must-play in the Metacritic audience. Richie, let's get some reviews in here. Let's get some big ones. Feel free to pick any out that have caught your eye initially. I'll start with VGC 24/7. They give it a 10 out of 10, 100 score. They say art is all about eliciting an emotional reaction. If you can do that, all the effort expanding and creating it was worth it. I think Clair Obscur does that with aplomb. If you ever loved role-playing games, ever, you owe it to yourself to play this. It has the capacity to touch you. Like, that's a review right there.
Statement.
Jeez. And well written, I will say. I love the use of the language in there.
I sometimes like to go to the user on Metacritic, the user ratings, and then filter for negative just to see what shit that's come up, because I find some of it funny. And there's one here. This game is a steaming pile of garbage. The gameplay is boring, repetitive. It uses the laziest form of gameplay imaginable, and that's turn-based combat. Then why the fuck did you buy it? If you don't like turn-based combat.
Yeah.
The developers added a dodge/parry system. It's almost like they wanted an actual combat system in real time, but were too cheap and lazy to do the job.
Wow.
The dodge parry window is ridiculous. It's basically a music rhythm game. When I pay $50, I expect a combat system with depth and detail, apparently just not turn-based. All the developer did in this game is put pretty lights during every move to give the players the illusion the game is fun. None of that is fun for me. When I was on the platforming section, I accidentally fell off, and there were no flailing animations. The foliage doesn't react to your movements. Speaking of which, the player movement lacks weight and proper animations. It's literally its PS2 quality. It's like, I was just reading that. I was like, the reason I wanted to pick that out one, because he actually did brought a bit of interesting information about the combat system, which he despised. He give it a 0, by the way. That it is a turn-based combat system that blends in a dodge and parry system, which is actually quite unique. I don't know any turn-based. I mean, Final Fantasy delve in there with some of the new entries, but to be predominantly turn-based, but add a proper dodge and parry system in there. I like how he's like saying there's no depth and detail, but he's also explained where the depth and the detail comes from.
Yeah, it sounds like your atypical gamer who's like, it's either you have to either love it with all your heart or you have to despise it with all of your fury. And giving something a 0, like objectively, just for the graphics alone, it should probably get at least a 4, you would imagine. But
it's like it's one of them. It's like he doesn't like turn-based games. So why would you buy a turn-based game? It's like going, I don't like racing games. This Forza is horrendous. It's terrible. I keep crashing.
Yeah, game forces you to drive cars all the time.
I can't even get out and mug someone.
Yeah, but back to the good then. Radio Times also give it a 10 out of 10, 100. They describe it as Clair Obscur was inspired by and developed in part to try and capture the magic of gaming's greatest turn-based RPGs. Final Fantasy, Persona, even Earthbound. Sandfall Interactive have pulled this off with aplomb, rightfully earning a place among these greats, and I expect that in the years to come, studios will be attempting to recreate the magic of Clair Obscur to Expedition 33 in turn.
So going over a pure Xbox, because they put a foot on the Xbox side here. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 brings a sumptuously stylish world, intricately woven narrative, and top-notch combat to the table, and it's a winner on every level. The additions to combat make for fights that feel proactive, engaging, and exciting at all times. The world is a constant revelation of incredible new regions and vistas, and the story will keep you hooked in until its emotional resolution. Samfall Interactive's debut is a masterpiece, really an odyssey that'll stick in your mind long after you're done, and one of the most enjoyable and fresh RPGs we've played in aeons. 100.
Jeez. I mean, yeah. This is one where I think initially I looked and thought the concept was great, and then I remember as the trailer went on a little bit more, and it did, to me, immediately stood out to be like a Persona-esque, with the big numbers and the art style and the way they did it. And then the more the story unraveled, I thought the concept is really cool. The art style has that like kind of steampunk aesthetic to it. And then now the reviews drop, and what I love in the world of video games, as much as we talk about like layoffs and studio closures and stuff, is that out of absolutely nowhere, a company can just appear, use Unreal Engine 5 or something, like this software, make a game that's stunningly beautiful, and because they're essentially an indie team, they can produce something that's so unique and has never been seen before. And like I said, the people who work there clearly grew up with such a passion for like the Final Fantasy style that they're now able to take their own experiences from being like kids themselves and put that into their careers and their passion now. And it's again, this is why video games are just art through and through, right? It's just iterative, building on it, and now we get this beautiful game out of nowhere.
Well, this is what I find amazing. It's obviously you can clearly see pretty much every review is referencing things like Persona and Final Fantasy, but it feels like they've went, we're not just going to make a game in that vein.
Yeah.
We're going to make a game that feels distinct and that can stand alongside them, that potentially pushes the turn-based genre forward a bit. It's like, fucking hell, guys. Dude, you don't need to be that ambitious out the gate, but well done.
Like, let them cook. To give you another...
I wish I had some money, because it's currently on sale on Amazon at 40 quid.
I mean, here we go. So, like, I'll give you a push square one as our final official review. The reason we tend to lean on official reviews if we haven't played it ourselves yet, we don't want to just give like our overall views from trailers. Push square PlayStation channel give it a 9 out of 10. They describe it as one of the most refreshing and original RPG in years, even if it's not immediately obvious from the outside looking in. The intriguing setup expands to provide an engrossing, excellent narrative with lovable and charismatic characters. The exemplary combat goes above and beyond its turn-based traditions with flashy fights and new ways to damage. This is the kind of experience that proves there's still so much potential and creativity in a bigger budget video game space that Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is simply sublime.
And one thing I like to actually look at sometimes is when we're looking at Metacritic is how does the user score versus the meta score? So the meta score is your official critics. So that's on PlayStation 5, it's getting a 92 meta score. User score is 96. I think it's usually a good telling that the critics are on point if the user score is higher. That they're not like, there's no massive disparity between them. That trend holds up on Xbox as well. And on PC.
Yep. It's it works. It just works. And now what I do need to ask though, Richie, is you're our traditional more RPG guy. Over your lifetime, you've probably got hundreds and hundreds of hours into a combination of Final Fantasy and Persona and other RPG-based things that you've played, like Octopath and stuff like that. Now this is dropped. I know we're going to get into our next story of stealth drop games and such as well, but does this now slide into your docket for the year? It has to, right? I know Persona initially wasn't, and then not Persona, sorry. Metaphor Refantasio last year wasn't, and then all of a sudden you were like, I'm 90 hours into this bad boy.
90 hours. They're rookie numbers. I was closer to 200.
But yeah, I remember when it was like coming up on launch, you were kind of like, okay. And then when it released and it got those great reviews, you were like, shit, I need to get on Metaphor. And you did, and it was one of your favorite games of last year.
It was, yeah.
Does Expedition deserve that chance based on everything we're reading here?
If I hadn't just bought a different game, I probably would have just bought it because I did just check the Amazon price. It's 40. It's currently you can get it for 40 quid. I'm skint at the moment, so I'm not buying it right now. But I've very much added it to my wish list. So I will be very, very much having a word with my girlfriend about this game. So maybe she buys it.
tempted to check it out on Game Pass to get a feel for it before committing? It's free.
I'm not going to play it now.
In case it gets its hook.
Yes. And to be honest, should we just move straight into our next story? Because it kind of...
Yeah, we'll side it with that. Yeah. So you and Rob, of course, spoke last week about the I'd say the long rumored. It's been leaked and expected for quite some time. But yes, we got Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. It had its official reveal last week. Xbox put out a tweet teasing it. You and Rob, I think, were just theorizing that the rumor was so close, ready to pop on last week's show. And then I feel like the show went live on Monday, and I feel like on Tuesday, Xbox gave official confirmation, and Bethesda were commenting saying like, yeah, it's this week. We're going to talk about it this week. We got the remaster. It stealth dropped straight into Game Pass as expected, and also available to purchase across Steam and PlayStation. Richie, you've bought it, I believe.
I did. I bought it on PlayStation, which is where I was talking. It's where I want to go with Clair Obscur. I'm finding I don't tend to play stuff much on Xbox because of the logistics. I've talked about before how the portal has become my default thing. So this is why I decided, because it's why I've dropped Avowed for a big game like that. Because I just don't have that much time where I want to sit on my own in this room and ignore my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. I prefer to be with her playing games. I think Rob was talking about similar with his girlfriend, where he prefers to spend time with her when he's playing rather than isolating himself.
Yeah.
So until Xbox come out with a proper handheld,
mm-hmm.
I feel like PlayStation is probably where I'm leaning for games. So when Oblivion Remastered dropped, I spent £50 so I could play it in my portal, basically, even though I have access to it on PC and I have access to it on Xbox. And that's where I am with Clair Obscur as well.
And this goes back to that model that we've talked about to death of Microsoft seemingly breaking the mold and go multi-platform, and their own diehard fans criticizing them. But you cannot deny, as someone like yourself who's predominantly a PlayStation user, they've got £50 out of you for this port. They might get £50 out of you for Expedition 33. Although it's not their game, actually, scratch that one. But Horizon's doing incredibly well. Our next story about Indiana Jones, on top of everything else, and they haven't even got to Halo and Gears yet. It's seemingly doing wonders for them. But to keep it, I guess, locked into the Elder Scrolls, give our audience your history of Oblivion first, and then what made you jump in immediately and go, I've got to buy this for £50.
Right. So I played Oblivion on PC long time ago when it first came out, because I was a huge Morrowind fan. Morrowind was kind of the game that kind of introduced me to proper open world games and like Western style RPGs of this kind of nature. And then Oblivion just kind of went, yep, we're going to take that to the next level. Because to be fair, Morrowind's janky. It's got a janky charm to it. Yeah. But I find Morrowind hard to play now. I find Oblivion hard to play now. So I'm just kind of all in on this game. So it was like when it came out, and when they were talking about it, because it kind of straddles the difference between a remake and a remaster. Now I've played it, I see why they internally call it a remaster rather than a remake, because it is Oblivion.
Right.
They haven't modernized everything. They haven't modernized what didn't need to be modernized. They added a few quality of life features in, but there's some quality of life features which they could have had it in and then chose not to. So things like your horse, you can't summon your horse, you just have to go find it. There's some old game decisions still left in there. It's kind of how you remember, have you ever played an old game and you went, oh, this is not how I remember this game being? Because in your head it looks better, it plays better. Oblivion Remaster is how I remember Oblivion being, not how it actually was.
Right.
Which is exactly what I think a remaster should do. It should retain the charm of the original, but not be what the original was, be how you misremember it to be. So it's absolutely stunning. it plays well. I'm playing on performance mode, mainly on the Portal, and it's smooth as butter. I've seen a few comments, a few user reviews saying on PlayStation it's broken and there's a few bugs, which I'll get to in a sec. And a few people saying when you're in the open world, you have massive slowdowns. Haven't experienced any of that.
It's still a Bethesda game, so
Yeah, it's still a Bethesda game. There's 2 bugs that I've seen. One of them, every time I quick save, it says it cannot be saved, but saves anyway. So it comes up with messages if I'm not allowed to save in that location.
yeah.
But it saves everywhere. And that is every single time I save, whether it's not a save, manual save, quick save, I get a message up. It's not a problem. It's on screen for about 2 seconds and disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And the saves are there. The other one is, for some reason, in some places, I think the horses that were meant to be in stables are spawning in random places, like outside castle walls and stuff. So I came out of a town earlier, and there's just a horse there, just right in front of the gate. It's just like, that's not meant to be there.
Is this the Witcher Roach problem again, where the horses just end up on rooftops and all over the place?
Yeah, I think it is that kind of thing, but it's not game breaking. I've encountered nothing game breaking at all. It's just, and I'm loving every minute.
Right. So
like,
all of that intel, and what is Oblivion about? Someone who's totally detached from this world. I'm aware of Skyrim. I'm aware of Morrowind. It's Tamriel, right?
Yes, it's Tamriel.
And this is an area. Is each game takes place in a different area? What am I doing in this world?
Yeah.
Like, what's the goal? I know is it the king at the beginning is killed or something, and you go on a quest after that?
So spoilers for the opening few hours of Oblivion, which is a very old game. So yeah, but
it's in the trailer as well.
Yeah, you start off in a cell.
Classic.
Doesn't matter. And literally, the game goes, doesn't matter how you got there. Doesn't matter. You're there.
Mm-hmm.
And that cell is specifically not ever meant to be used because it's actually a hidden passageway that the Emperor would use in terms if he ever got attacked, which is how you make the Emperor. But the Emperor's had prophetic dreams, which you were in, but you can't see past his own death.
Yeah.
You go through some tutorial stuff. The Emperor gets killed, and you're tasked with delivering the Amulet of Kings, a magical artifact which is tied to keeping the doors of Oblivion closed, which is this demonic world, to the Emperor's only remaining bastard son, also who was actually played by Sean Bean.
And the Emperor's Patrick Stewart, right?
Yes, the Emperor's Patrick Stewart, and his bastard son is Sean Bean.
Wow.
So Patrick Stewart gives you a magic necklace to deliver to Sean Bean.
Right, I'm getting it now. I'm getting it. Yeah, I'm seeing where it goes.
Who doesn't know he's the Emperor's son?
Mm-hmm.
So then it's about him becoming the Emperor and you becoming this kind of great hero to close down Oblivion. But they go with any Bethesda game where a lot of the charm comes not necessarily from the main narrative. It's all the side stuff, the world, getting them immersed in that world. You'll just meet one of the first quests you'll encounter in one of the first cities is you go in a shop and the shopkeeper's daughter's being kidnapped, and you go and you find a bunch of cultists who she was meant to be delivering some goods, and there's a bunch of cultists who are basically going to sacrifice her to the deep ones.
Yeah.
So you get unfold all these mysteries as you play through the game. But,
sounds good then. And how many hours in now?
I don't know because my save says about 40 hours. I don't think I've all. Yesterday, it said about 35 hours when I showed my girlfriend, and I think I'd only owned it for about 36 hours.
Right.
But I'm probably about 10 to 15. I've played quite a lot in a short period of time.
Wow. So, and this is, I guess, back to our wider conversation about the last 2 stories, is now Xbox and Game Pass specifically have this wonderful cadence, quite frankly, of just shit is dropping left, right, and center. Are they at risk of cannibalizing themselves now? Because you've got, on one hand, Expedition 33 dropping in the Game Pass, and it's getting 92s. It's straight in loads of people's Game of the Year conversations. It's a massive 50, 60 hour game, I would imagine. And then out of nowhere, Microsoft go, within a mere day or two, let's drop one of the most revered RPGs of all time, albeit not a one-for-one likeness, but it's surely going to turn enough heads. And Bethesda actually tweeted out Friday they've already had 4 million players. So I look at that and go, that's 4 million potential players who could have looked at Expedition 33 instead, all included for free on this platform they subscribe to. And then they see this pop up and go, remember your childhood? Remember Oblivion? Remember the gravitas that comes with the world of Elder Scrolls and the kind of
it's
the fame?
such a nostalgia hit, isn't it?
Right? So, like, how do you, as a gamer who's maybe a lapsed gamer or you're new to it, like, even if, like, you've never played either of these games before, these type of games, you must just look at that Game Pass banner and go, I've heard of that one over there. I've never heard of that one. Let's go for the familiar one. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a risky roll of the dice to play. I think it
depends. I was listening to a Kind of Funny podcast, Kind of Funny Games Daily a few days ago, and Mike was saying how he just straight up blazingly went, I don't think gamers only like ever play like a single game. I feel like they bounce around a lot. I'm like, he's like describing like me. He's like, no, I am usually laser focused on one game until completion, then I move on. But I think there might be more Mikes in the world who bounce around a lot of different games and eventually complete everything, if they complete it at all. So
flavor of the day kind of thing.
So with Game Pass, it might just be a case of Xbox or Microsoft they've got the data. They've seen how people are playing games, and if they're seeing people bounce between games a lot, does it matter if you bring out two big games on your service similar times? One's a massive nostalgia trip, and one is a AAA masterpiece for modern times. They can coexist, because I think Xbox are going, well, people just play both of them.
But then if we go back to a monetary standpoint, then who got your £50 this weekend?
It did go to Oblivion, but that's because the nostalgia factor, and I was ready for a new game. And if I read the reviews before Clair Obscur, before I saw the Oblivion take I may have went the other way, but because of my history with Oblivion, the fact that it's been games that I've always revisited, I will always continue to revisit these games. There's something about the Elder Scrolls, for me, there's just that staying power where you can eventually just look past the jank and still have a great experience. So when Oblivion was announced, like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, when I was watching the trailers and I realized it wasn't just we'll just give it just an up-res so it runs at 4K 60 frames per second on a PS5 Pro, but everything else is the same. The fact that they put the time and the effort to modernize where it needs to be and retain where it needs to be retained, to keep things like the janky dialogue is part of the charm of the game.
Yeah.
Although they recorded new lines for the game, they've kept the janky style.
Yeah, it just makes me think, like, I'd love to be a fly on the wall when these decisions are made, because, like, ultimately, could they not have just held off till next month and let Expedition 33 have room to breathe? Like, if you're over there at that studio and you've just put out Expedition, it's getting amazing reviews, and then you look in your Twitter feed and you see...
Was that published by Xbox? By Microsoft?
No, it's just on Game Pass. So I'm just thinking, if you've put your game... But it's surely like potential, and you know what I mean? It's just soaking up the optics. That's it. Like, in a world where, like, being fresh in a big story, this is immediate game of the year conversation. But then all of a sudden the winds are blown towards, oh my god, Oblivion's back out. 4 million players are playing it. It's like the cadence of the space and time you have in the news when you had to deal with Xbox, for then Xbox to come out and drop one of their biggest first party games is like, man, you couldn't have waited till May. You couldn't have given it just 2-3 weeks for us to launch.
But the thing is, although Expedition 33 is coming to Game Pass, so no, how much time is Microsoft thinking about that internally?
Yeah. And
how much autonomy does Bethesda still have? Bethesda might be one of the arms of Microsoft that holds a lot of autonomy. Yeah. Like, Todd Howard probably has a lot of decision-making power for Bethesda.
I mean, again, it's such that warped sense of schedule, where if they went next month, they risk clashing with Doom. They're getting close to kind of Doom launch time there, so it's like the cadence in which they're releasing, you can't really be helped. And that, I guess, brings us into our next story, Richie, which is on the flip side. Indiana Jones is also just released on PS5, so that, like, Xbox studios are just firing on all the cylinders now. Like, they're either getting ports or remasters or brand new titles out across all platforms. So then, yes, you're kind of dealing with stuff over here on one side, and then on the right, you've got your game jumping across to one of the other biggest platforms, 60, 70 million pieces of hardware out there. And you do think, like, yeah, Bethesda must have a good bit of power, because now they've got a proven track record, Game of the Year nominated, Indiana Jones, getting, you'd imagine, like a second wind here, releasing on PlayStation.
Quite a bit of a second wind, let's be fair with it.
Yeah, if we look at one of the articles we're pulling from Pure Xbox, it looks like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is selling faster on PS5 than it did on Xbox and Steam. So there's a chart in the article which is just tracking sales numbers. It looks like Steam, when it arrived at the 6-day mark, was tracking about 91,000. On PS5, they're looking at probably about 117 based on trajectories. So it's selling at a 28% faster pace, despite the initial marketing cycle being wrapped up prior to Christmas. And I guess, yeah, what do you think the reason for this is? Is this because Indiana Jones and Adventure maybe aligns with PlayStation style games more? Is it the success of it being Game of the Year nominated has got people curious?
Yeah, I think Steam is quite a different ecosystem to like PlayStation and Xbox, where things like it tends to be Oblivion, the numbers on Oblivion will be insane.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's where a lot of PC gamers tend to lean towards, where Indiana Jones does feel more like a console game.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. It's weird. I think there is still a split there in sort of like the style of games that hardcore PC players are playing versus hardcore console gamers are playing.
Yeah,
there's obviously overlap, but yeah, I feel like. And to be honest, Indiana Jones, who's buying that game on Steam when you could get it on Game Pass, PC Game Pass?
Well, that's why the sales are always a bit skewed now, because you'd imagine Game Pass cannibalizes a lot of sales on Xbox, because I didn't buy it, but I played it day one.
If
I'm
a hardcore PC gamer, I'm probably having Xbox Game Pass
Ultimate.
PC Ultimate, because it's relatively inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
And you get the entire Xbox library there, plus other stuff. So why would I buy the game on Steam when I could have it on Game Pass? And if you care about things like DRM-free stuff, you're probably looking at more of like good old games and other storefronts anyway. So with PC players, you have options of where you purchase the game.
Yeah.
So where I think all the PlayStation 5 sales are lumped in together. Whether you buy a disc version off Amazon or another retailer, or you buy the digital version, they'll be lumping it all in together.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're basically looking at a platform versus a shop. That's the difference here.
A platform versus a shop.
And I feel like my original point is now invalid. I think my second point makes more sense. That's the reason behind Steam is actually lagging behind, because it's not actually that much behind. It's what, 20,000? Which isn't a huge number when you think of as soon as you had the PC Game Pass players, and that dwarfs PlayStation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
and I think if you look at the demographics of the audience as well, if you're an Indiana Jones fan, you're probably in our age group more so than you are 18, 15-year-old now. I can't imagine a lot of 15-year-olds have top-end PCs, and I can't imagine anyone who's out there with children, families, full working adult life has a top-end PC either. So you are probably talking that, like, the demographic of, I'd say, 20-something-year-olds who have a bit of disposable income, maybe just getting their first proper decent job, they maybe are outside that Indiana Jones fandom gap a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, we can dissect the numbers as much. But back to our deeper conversation that covers the last three topics of the show. Game Pass and Xbox is like, this is Bethesda. They've got Doom round the corner. They've got Indiana Jones now. They've just put out Oblivion Remake. It's almost like, yeah, forget your second party deal with Expedition 33. Like, we're in the seat of, like, we dictate when we launch and what works best for our analytics.
Yeah.
But you can't help stand back and applaud them for having a stellar 2025 so far. Like, it's doing great. It's nice to see. It's refreshing after covering the industry for 6 years nearly now, and like seeing Xbox actually seemingly have that consistency, that roadmap in place, and it's working.
Well, a few years ago when we were starting like X Pass, we were talking how Xbox felt like they were on the verge of really getting going, and they've been quiet for a number of years, and they had a few hits, a few misses. That Redfall came out, which we thought was going to be the start of it, was a bit of a false dawn because the game was shit.
Yeah.
But now it feels like they are starting to fire on all cylinders. The quality games that they've been promising, that we know they're capable of delivering, are starting to come. Things like Indiana Jones has come out. Oblivion of the Shadow Drop. Starfield is growing in popularity. Shadow Drop of Oblivion. Just, we're going to throw that out there as something else for gamers to chew on. It makes you wonder, it's like, how long have I been sitting on that? Have I been waiting for the right opportunity and just went, go, go, go?
I'm curious to see how Forza does as well, because that's going to be
Forza also is amazing. Yeah.
Do you think we see Starfield before the end of the year on PlayStation? Like a November release will be like 2 years after launch. Is the time right? I think Starfield would do really well on PS5.
Yeah, I haven't checked in with Starfield in a long time, so I don't know, because there was a lot of quality life issues that I think they've been trying to fix before Shattered Space.
Yeah.
So if they're all fixed and the game is now generally in a favourable state, I think that's when they do it. I don't think they'd release Starfield while there's still big gripes about it. Because why would you?
And the elephant in the room we're missing, not only are they having a brilliant third-party strategy, it's starting to really make sense and work out long-term. The big elephant in the room, Richie, is how many of these games we're talking about here, how many launch day one on Switch 2? They could see a massive uplift again. If you can drop like Indiana Jones, Forza, Oblivion Remastered on a portable device that's brand new and it's the hot topic at the moment, Xbox could have a phenomenal June, July, just off the back of new hardware launch, and that's got nothing to do with them.
Do you go even harder with it and go, we're going to bring out an Indiana Jones Switch 2?
Well, like
some Indiana Jones Joy-Cons. Because that would be amazing.
I don't think they'd go that hard, but you know what I mean? It's just mad to think, like, Phil Spencer, I think, was quoted last week or the week before about his relationship, not his relationship, Xbox's relationship with Nintendo, and he like just doubled down and said, like, Nintendo are great partners to work with. They have the deal in place for Call of Duty to get that over in the future. I think this year might be a bit too soon for the Switch 2 for Call of Duty, especially like with day one parity. But I could see, Xbox, they're seeing great numbers with PlayStation. Sea of Thieves on Switch would smash it out the park, I believe, as well. Grounded is much more of a Switch game, I would say.
Sea of Thieves would be amazing on Switch.
Is it already out? I know. Is Grounded out? I feel like one or two. I think Pentiment might have went on Switch, just for clarity's sake. Or Pentiment and Grounded are. Yeah, that makes sense. Same with Hi-Fi. Or Sea of Thieves as well.
Yeah. Sea of Thieves is such a Switch game.
Yeah, Forza. I can't remember if Forza was announced for it.
I mean, you can attest how good Sea of Thieves is as a Switch game because you played it on the Portal predominantly, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Grounded, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, and Sea of Thieves were coming to Switch and PlayStation. I feel like one of them was delayed. Oh no, wait there. On the Xbox blog, it says, PlayStation 5 on April 30th will get Sea of Thieves. No word on Switch. So Sea of Thieves isn't on Switch yet. It was just in the same article where they were talking about Switch. So that's still right for the picking. I think, Sea of Thieves on Switch 2 could be big. But we digress. I just think it's Xbox finally starting to bear the fruits. And as I said, Doom's only 6 weeks away now. So absolute craziness. But for moving over from one remaster to the next, let's pivot into our next story of the week. Days Gone Remastered launched this past Friday. Of course, if you already owned the game, you could have done the £10, $10 upgrade path. So you could have got all the bells and whistles and new features of Horde mode and such. With that one, this is Ben's studio returning to the well in the absence of anything, because we know their multiplayer live service God of War game was seemingly cancelled by Sony a couple of months back. So the studio haven't really had much to do, it would seem. But one thing I wanted to mention, which was quite obscure, is that the reviews for Days Gone Remaster are delayed it would seem.
Yeah, that's weird.
You got a block nose there, Richie.
A bit, yeah.
I was thinking, like, is there like a fan going off or a whirring going on? Days Gone Remaster reviews aren't out yet, which I don't really get. I'm reading from Push Square, who obviously PlayStation channel, they would traditionally get the reviews out. There's not one so far because they haven't had the game code sent out until a few hours before its public release, which I don't know why they do this. It seems bad.
Yeah, I think when they do that, they don't give the reviewers time to play it before the game comes out. I feel like that's usually a bad sign.
Well, this is what screwed the game over upon its first launch, if you remember. Everyone got the review copies. They played it for 30, 40 hours, said there was issues, there was bugs, there was glitches, and then the day one patch remedied 80, 90%. So if you remember when users got their hands on it, they were all looking at the reviews going like, what the hell are you talking about? I've not had any of these problems. I've not witnessed any of these issues. And that's why you've got this weird cult defense following of Days Gone kind of grew from nowhere, where the audience absolutely adores it, but the critics almost said it was just average at best. And now we're stuck in this weird thing where the game's got a cult following. It's now getting a remaster. So I would say if you're a huge fan of Days Gone, like myself, I've got the Platinum Trophy in it. I thought it was a brilliant game. You kind of got to put your money where your mouth is now if you want to see. We know we're not seeing Days Gone 2 anytime soon, but I think this is going to be one of them franchises, Richie, that I feel like in a decade's time we finally get a sequel when PlayStation kind of run a bit dry. They go, you know what? Do it.
I think you might put your finger on why they got the review code so late. They were probably waiting for the day one patch to be complete because last time they got shafted by it. So why put it out to the same fate? Wait till you got that day one patch. Wait till you're ready to go public and go, you know what, the reviews will come.
Days Gone. You never played Days Gone, right?
No. I just never got around to it.
Did your girlfriend? I can't remember.
I don't know. I feel like it's a game that she would have played.
Yeah, I do as well. It's currently not on Amazon available. Is this a digital only upgrade pathway? I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
It looks like it's got nothing on Amazon, which is usually your default one.
I feel like though I think one of the problems with this game this time round is it's come out with absolutely no fanfare. Any marketing attempt has just been not driven out by Clair, Obscur and Oblivion.
Well, have we not seen this with PlayStation in general? They've been quite poor at marketing their own games of late. Like again. Days Gone Remaster comes out this week. They go and drop a Ghost of Yotei release date trailer like 2 days before. It's like, read the room. Like you've got a game about to launch that's well revered for a cult following, and you go like, nah.
They must have these conversations, and it might just be because it's a remaster.
Mm-hmm.
They might just be going, you know what, it is what it is. Bring it out. People who are interested in it will find it, rather than it's more of, they might be seeing it as more of a nice addition to the library rather than this is the big tentpole title for them.
Yeah, I'll get around to checking it out like I did the Horizon one. I've got the Days Gone Collector's Edition back when I had no children, and I was just buying things for a collection. So yeah, it comes with a steelbook of the kind of but again, it's one of them where it's a nice thing, a little bit of an art book that you'll probably never look at beyond the day you purchase it. Warning, contains spoilers, which I do appreciate when they do that in there, so I won't show to camera. But yeah, Days Gone, purely for the horde mode. Think World War Z levels of like hordes, but just the amount of fear, Richie, in this game when you're supposed to find like, I think like a car battery or something. I can't remember. They send you after a gadget, and it's in a mine or something, and you go in, and they have like a bit like The Last of Us, where they have like the quiet ones who just kind of not sneak around, but they're in like a dormant state, and any noise you make might get them. And when you trigger one, I kid you not, you're chased by like hundreds of them, like World War Z levels, running away, dropping your traps and your triggers and your Molotovs, and then to get on your bike and have them still chase you and able to jump on you and get you off your bike. It's quite engaging stuff, so I'm interested to see how the new horde mode and where they've upped it, and the fact that they've been able to double down on the AI a little bit of the enemies should make it really, really good. But it's one of them, if you're a fan of the game, it's out now. PlayStation will market it to you, but if you've ever been curious, I definitely recommend it. And yeah, I'm curious to see where the cards land with this one. Does it sell well? Is that cult following? Like, if you want a sequel to this game, I guess now is the opportunity to try and put your money where your mouth is and support it. Because let's face it, Ben don't have a project currently because they got the rug pulled out from under them like Bluepoint did with their live service game. So they're probably in pre-production on 2 or 3 games right now, and they just need to hone in and settle on one. So we won't see anything from them for another 5 years at least.
It makes you wonder if the remaster does well, and it's slowly, it's not going to. I don't think you're going to see massive spike in sales, but if it slowly builds and the reputation builds, would Sony be consider going back to the well for number 2?
I think there might be. I think this is testing the waters officially, but all the fanfare around a sequel. It's that, like, if you're PlayStation now and you've got the studio, clearly talented people, but realistically the output in the last decade has been Uncharted Golden Abyss on the Vita and Days Gone in a decade. You clearly want to keep them because they've not laid anyone off, but you've just killed the current project they were working on, which was the God of War live service. Don't know how they ended up with that in the first place. These guys should have been doing the next Uncharted game, in my opinion. If Bluepoint weren't available, these are the next best guys after Naughty Dog. I'd like to think Uncharted is somewhere further along the pipeline. We spoke about the concert this week and said that it's been like 9 years. So it's like definitely ready for it, but I could see them going quiet for 4 years, and then we get that absolute random shock at the Game Awards where you and me are covering it, and it's like, oh my God, is this Days Gone? Is this Days Gone too? No way. And then the logo comes on and everyone's like, oh shit. And I could see them getting a pop out of it because it'll have been 10 years nearly. So,
and there's still the conversation of what's going on with the TV show / movie, or what's going on there.
Everything. So we shall see. Moving on though from Days Gone to some quick updates around the world of tech. Xbox Game Cloud has landed on LG Smart TVs this past week. A couple of updates, which I feel like we've had it on Samsung TVs for quite some time. Xbox clearly had a partnership with Samsung early doors. It kind of works the other way. If you usually buy like a Samsung mobile phone, it quite often comes with like a year's worth of Game Pass in the past. So there's clearly some kind of working in tandem deal there. But yes, if you own a LG Smart TV from models, I think they've quoted it as saying
2022 and up.
And 23 models, which I feel like mine are maybe just outside of that.
It's including the 2022 OLED TVs, 2023 OLED, QNED, NanoCell, New HD TVs. You need software version 23.20.01 or higher.
Yeah. But if I recall, they did this when Amazon Luna and Stadia came out, is it didn't come to setting all the models, but then eventually, like another 2 or 3 months later, they went back a little bit further. And I'm guessing it is just down to the software, right? If they can get the app on the App Store, the rest of it you would like to think is fairly similar. Like, you'd imagine this Smart TV's OS isn't too dissimilar to the year-on-year models, other than just maybe refined and tweaked a little bit. So obviously they're going to go with the more current stuff to begin with. But then if they look at their numbers and go, well, we've got 100 million of last year's models sat there, it kind of makes sense to maybe get round to it at some point. Because nobody's buying TVs on a regular cadence anymore. So your existing customer base...
What do you mean? Anymore? Was anyone upgrading the TV every year?
No, but you know what I mean? Like the progression of TVs, of like there was a more reason to buy one because it was like, oh, now they've got HD. Oh, now it's 4K. Now there's OLED. Now there's 3D. I don't feel like we get as much improvement year on year.
I find it weird that these companies actually release a new product every year because the difference between the 2025 model and the 2022 model is probably largely insignificant.
Yeah.
There'll be loads of techie reasons where I go, oh yeah, it's better, it's got more processing power. But when you're sat down watching TV, are you noticing any of that crap?
Yeah, exactly.
I think the user experience would be largely... It's the same with mobile phones nowadays. The user experience doesn't change that much from generation to generation.
So I'll hold out hope because I have I have many Chromecasts, as you and me both do. I have a Fire Stick as well. So it's like, let me have it on my TV.
And I'm no longer in the market for a new TV, which I was before because my girlfriend's actually got a very nice TV. But I still think brilliant market move for this is, you buy your TV, you get 1 month of Game Pass, and I'm going to put an Xbox controller in the box.
Yeah. Like for
so when you get home and people who know about gaming don't know, like, why is this controller there? Oh, what's this Game Pass thing? It's like, well, do I not need to buy an Xbox? Like, no, you don't.
Yep.
And I'd have a step-by-step instruction in the box with the control when you open and go, turn on the TV, go to the Game Pass app, connect the controller, play.
Yeah.
No Xbox required in massive red letters.
This is an
so
Xbox.
Anyone's not a bit. So anyone who, this is an Xbox. So anyone who's not tech savvy, who wants to play games, go, wait, I don't actually have to buy the Xbox. I've got the controller. It came in with the box for my TV. Because how much does it cost Microsoft to produce an Xbox controller? 30 quid.
Yeah. Oh, not even
how
that.
much? How much is the price of a top-end LG TV? $1,000. Just stick it in there.
Yeah.
Add a month for Game Pass. Off you go. You've now got a new customer.
Yeah. I think we said it back in the Stadia days. It would be such an easy move to make of that. If you've got that Game Pass window, so on your home banner screen, I've seen it recently actually on my Fire Stick with Amazon Luna. It was showing me that Star Wars Jedi Survivor was available. So I just booted up my TV, and all of a sudden I've got this big purple promotion for Jedi Survivor on my home screen TV, and it caught my eye, and I was like, huh, what the hell? Like, that's caught me off a little bit. If they can do that with Xbox, where it's like, look, he's South of Midnight, he's Doom, he's Oblivion Remaster, you just promote them as a rolling banner week on week of current content, and you catch someone's eye of like, huh, I've heard about that, or I used to play that, oh, I remember Oblivion. Oh, hang on, didn't the TV come with a controller?
They really need to do with that stuff, where if they're going to go advertise on your home banner, he's a Star Wars Jedi Survivor, is have it very, very clear on that banner that you do. This is not a link to buy the game, to buy so you can play an Xbox or PC, whatever, or PlayStation. This is you go on this and you can play it on this device.
Yeah,
that's it. No other device needed. That's why I think sometimes I need that more clarity. Because some people will see the banner and go, I'm not interested in buying that game.
Yeah.
Then get back to whatever they're doing. I don't have a console. I'm not going to buy that.
Well, yeah.
So you need to break the people who would dismiss it because they don't want to buy the console. Because they're your target audience. The people who want to buy the console, they're not your target audience.
Yeah.
This is more of a utility for them.
Agreed.
It's the people who don't want to buy the console you need to advertise to.
Agreed. Completely agreed. But Richie, let's round the news by focusing in on what we did this week. We were fortunate enough to get tickets. You and me both snagged tickets last year for the PlayStation. Or I should say PlayStation The Concert is its official name. Events have started going off. If you want to know more about them, they're all on Richie's back. But we went along this past Thursday. We went to the event in Newcastle. And yeah, just some of your first overall thoughts of the showcase. So we got there. There was no kind of pre-show. It was very much like, this is the start time. Go in. Orchestra's there. And they kick things off. What were your thoughts on it?
I thought it was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. Like the music, the visuals that the company did, the choice of selection. I think could have been better, but that's just nostalgia talking. I think they did focus on their current key franchises, where I think we were both a little disappointed that Uncharted, it was there.
Yeah.
But it was there and then it was move on.
Yeah, that was, big franchises overall. I think there was a bit of everything from there, but I think going in as like veteran gamers, I would say, I think we had our heart set on seeing a bit more. And you're always going to want to see more of your favorite games, right? As well, you're always going to be a little inherently biased towards like, oh, I want to see a bit of that. We had a discussion going into it of like, will they have any second party? Like, will we be seeing Crash Bandicoot here or something else, a bit Spyro? And it was like, well, actually, no, we very much felt it was not. But yeah, they had the big screen, they had the orchestra out there that they utilised. They had these kind of like banners which came down. If anyone's ever been to a Disney park before, where they kind of like projection map onto anything and everything. Like in Disney, they do it on like water. Like they spray fountains up in the air and broadcast it onto the water, so you actually almost like have a screen out of nowhere. They used like these 5 banners, didn't they? As like to create like a bit of depth perception.
The depth was incredible because they had a massive LED screen behind the orchestra. Mm-hmm. Then they had these 5 banners that would come down in front of it, or sometimes
semi down,
semi down, or sometimes people be in front, some people be in front, some people be behind, so they're semi-transparent. They're mapping to that. The way they use the lighting to blend this really added depth.
Yeah.
So like the visuals were absolutely stunning.
Yeah, they use it really well to frame things, I felt. There was a particular scene with... if anyone's going to the concert, maybe don't listen to this part of the show. I wouldn't want to spoil any things that were going to pop up. But yeah, they had The Last of Us played, and they cut to the scene with the giraffes, and they very much used the banners as like foliage. So it was like the tree line, and then the giraffe was set back in the little break of the side of the building like it is in the game. And the giraffe came and ate some leaves and stuff as the guy was doing the doom 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 part of the song. And yeah, I think they hit everything. We started with Horizon. They showed off a lot of Horizon, and then we got some Ghost of Tsushima, or I guess Ghost of now. Like, what do we call that franchise? Just Ghosts?
Well, it was Ghost of Tsushima.
That particular one was, but like going forward, Ghost of something.
Yeah, they have 4 main franchises they focused on, and had a few others sprinkled in. So the 4 were Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, and God of War. I don't think anyone would be surprised by that.
No, it's on the posters.
Yeah, it's on the posters. It's on my t-shirt.
And then they kind of sprinkled in some little cameos in between them, didn't they? We had Bloodborne got its moment with some really nice visuals as well. We got Uncharted, as I said. I think after the break they returned with Uncharted 4. That was one. I think that was the one where we discussed it afterwards. They maybe let themselves down a little bit with some, because they opened so strongly with the visuals and the sound for Horizon and then Ghost of Tsushima. Then after we had a 20-minute intermission, went back to Uncharted. They just had like almost like a static image, which they eventually brought in an image of Nathan Drake, but
it wasn't.
They played Nate's theme, which is the best thing. That was my favorite song of the whole night, just with an orchestra, because it's just so
playing in my
emphatic.
head right now.
It's so emphatic, and that was it. And I think we were saying like they didn't show anything of like the jungle, the temples, the stones. There was no green or anything like that. It was very much just a dark background of the island from 4. And a PNG
as we drove home, I said what I would have personally done is, because it was just the island from 4 and that was it in the storm. That's the main thing they focused on. I would have transitioned from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to Lost Legacy throughout the course of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not Lost Legacy because it's Nate's theme they were playing, but
and I think one thing we said, which was surprising to us, is they didn't really utilize like game footage much in anything. They had like really great visuals for a lot of it, like with the Ghost of Tsushima stuff. They had like a lot of the falling leaves and the wind blowing around, and they were great. But in my head, I think the only one that used it was God of War. It showed you the clip between the fight of Kratos and Thor from Ragnarok, and I said like that was like right at the end of the show, and I was saying to my brother who was with me, I felt like that's where I was most engaged with the content, because I was watching it as the music was playing, the lights were flashing, and the visuals were all popping off, and I was like, yes, I'm in this. And I think we said things like Uncharted and Ghost of Tsushima Horizon, they have such rich, gorgeous visuals anyway. It's a shame we didn't almost see more gameplay like sprinkled throughout the show, just to make me look at it and go, that the reason I'm here is because I've played those games for hundreds upon hundreds of hours. Let me see them. So me just staring at a static image of Nathan Drake with the island and then a couple of birds fly by to make it seem like it's got motion. I feel like they could have done more in some degree, but we discussed that of like how quick stuff got in there and how set the schedule was, because one of the ones I was so glad was in there, and our audience will know this as well, is the Helldivers theme. Very orchestral theme, and it's very emphatic when you're launching the hell pods down to the planet's surface and you get the dun 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 dun. It's like hell yeah. And all they had was an image of a planet and then the 4 Helldivers from the cover art, slightly like a slow zoom in on them, and I was like, no, this is where the banners should have been coming down with freedom and liberty for everyone, and they should have made it like a big PR propaganda piece for war, and it just it didn't live up, and that's where it's like, is Helldivers just been shoehorned in because it's popular?
I don't know if it was shoehorned in, but it was definitely not a priority. Same with Last of Us is basically a dormant franchise. Not Last of Us, Uncharted is basically a dormant franchise at the moment. So they were kind of there, and now we move on. So it was like really, there was the main 4 big ones that they were focused on. There was a few nice surprises. I think Journey was in there, which was a nice nod, because they did talk about how Journey, I think, was it the first video game to get a Grammy?
Yeah, it was the first one to win an award outside of the
video game
awards. Yeah, exactly. And since then, more have gone on to do that.
Yeah. So that I think that was incredible. That was there, just for the legacy.
Yeah.
That game has. How awesome though was Astrobot?
Yeah, the kind of teases a little bit because Astrobot was on the poster, and then we got to the end, and it was like, right, we're practically finished, and they said, oh well, actually, we got one more. And then they did Astrobot, which doesn't really lend itself to an orchestra. I think they played it was
fun though.
It was fun, and they showed like clips from the game, but they had the visuals of like all of the little Astrobots, the brands tied together. So we saw Uncharted, we saw Horizon, we saw Joel and Ellie floating around on the little Astrobot discs in kind of like a space world, and then that all culminated together with them jumping on the PlayStation DualSense and then flying off into the sky. And that's where we got the a kind of PlayStation medley to show out the show, which is like a nice. It's actually, if you're going to want to go watch it, there's a short available on our channel right now, which is the kind of finale to the concert, which just kicked in just after Astrobot. Frustratingly enough, Richie, the shorts can only be like 60 seconds long, and the finale was like 1 minute 14. So it does miss the slight beginning, but then you should have went and bought tickets if you wanted to see it in all its glory.
I think overall as well, we have to remember it was a 2-hour show and it flew over.
It did, yeah.
So it's like, we might be griping about things that weren't there, but are we griping that it wasn't a 3-hour show? Is that what we're actually doing?
I mean, I would have happily watched some more.
So I think that goes to show you, we wanted more.
Yeah. We should probably address as well, I would definitely see another show if they did it again. The elephant in the room with this is, of course, we did have cancellations across Europe. Some of the events have been kicked off. Honestly, our arena we were in was probably only at half capacity.
Yeah,
and that
they were actually asking people to go down to the floor to fill up.
Yeah, and even then they'd closed curtains around the stalls at the top to make it feel like a little bit more intimate. They dragged black curtains along to take out, I guess, another tier of seating. I was on the floor. You were at the back part, if I recall.
I was at the back, but my seats were actually dead
central.
And honestly, when I remember seeing seats, my girlfriend was taking the piss out. We go, "Have you bought terrible seats here?" But I was like, "I bought the PlayStation pre-sale." We were sat dead central at a nice height, and the arena actually wasn't as big. It's been a long time since I've been in there, as big as I remember.
Yeah.
So we actually had a very, very good view of everything. So she was happy.
Yeah,
so
I think for some of your photos, I think with them being more central, because of the way the visuals are obviously mapped out, I felt sometimes some of the people sat up on the sides wouldn't have got anywhere near the imagery.
I felt it's lucky that you and your brother are tall from where you were sat, because you were on the floor right at the back in the corner.
Yeah,
where a shorter person like myself, probably would have had a lot more problems seeing stuff from your angle. So
win-win all around.
It worked. I was happy.
It worked, but it was a shame to see, because it was like, I mean, better for us because it was quiet. We didn't have like any like crammed queues getting to the toilets or anything like that. But I think I
told you as well. Actually, I did have some woman sat in front of me, filmed the entire thing. Not taking a few clips like we've both done. She was sat there with her phone like that the entire show.
Gonna go watch it all back maybe she works for Xbox and she's doing some research. But yeah, it was one of those where like it does have me concerned that I've done a few of these concert things now. I've done Jurassic Park, I've done a Disney one with my wife, and then to see like a PlayStation one do so poorly in terms of like, you could just walked in on the day and got tickets and got straight in. And I think when we were discussing it, I think the pricing structure was wildly outblown. I think the tickets were like £80 if I recall.
I think for some of the better seats, I think mine were about 50, which I think I actually got one of the best seats in the house, perfectly honest.
And I think the turnaround, like these got dropped just before Christmas. So you think people buying, like doing Christmas shopping, and I think they all had the 30th anniversary collection, all the pre-order stuff dropped then as well. So you'd imagine if you're a diehard fan, you might have spent your money on hardware or games, and then it's like, again, everyone's been squeezed that little bit extra. And I also think like if you like myself, if your partner's not maybe into gaming that much, who do you take along? So it's like it's an interesting like demographic that a PlayStation specific orchestra performance is trying to hit. But it was just it does make me I'm not surprised that some of the other ones were cancelled, because if we got low numbers, I can't imagine in more like rural locations and maybe countries with smaller populations, if it wasn't worth enough to put it. And seemingly, the guys touring, it's like one band, isn't it? It's just one group who are going to do the world. So
it's that's something we should mention about the music side of it. It's not a full orchestra. It was one band, and they did actually quite seamlessly blend in pre-recorded sections.
Yeah.
Sometimes for specific instruments, but I can tell you now, there wasn't enough strings on stage to make that depth of sound, which is actually incredible in its own right, that the performers were able to match and sync that completely seamlessly. But yeah,
so we did it. We went. We enjoyed it. We would go back. But clearly, PlayStation have some logistical things, whether it's pricing or location. Maybe they need to sort out. I'll be curious to see how the rest of the tour goes and if we see it again. It would have been nice to have some more third-party stuff in there, but maybe that's for a follow-up. We shall see.
Well, there were a lot of people talking about Final Fantasy. I was like, Final Fantasy have their own one. I've been to it. It's not going to be here.
Yeah. Was it fuller?
It was a different location. Mm-hmm. It was fuller, but it was at the Sage rather than the Utility Arena, which is a smaller venue and more music centered anyway. Yeah. So I think that was, but you didn't get the same level of visual that you could get from Utility. So it's like, what do you go for? I think I'd go for the Utility and get the visuals in there as well.
The visuals for me were the best. Like to see your childhood and your passion, your hobby kind of portrayed on a stage with the fantastic visuals and movements such that they had tied with the music was like, it was a sight to behold. But as I said, go watch the show up on the channel if you want a taste of it. Last quick news stories. PlayStation 5 classics. Themes are back. They promised us they'd be back. I don't know why they took them away, but they are back. So if you want your PS1, 2, 3 or 4 fancy backgrounds and sound effects that celebrate the 30th anniversary, you can get them now. Or they might not be there yet. I'm not too sure when the show goes live.
At the time of recording, they weren't there. Yeah. But it's going to be a phased rollout starting the 24th of April. So yeah.
And then the final one is back to movies as we usually do so. And that is Sydney Sweeney is set to star in a split fiction film written by the Deadpool and Wolverine team. So
right. I need to ask, who the hell is Sydney Sweeney? Because I hear her name a lot, but I have no idea who she is or why people care.
She is a young and up-and-coming actress, Richie, that's had one of those... You know when sometimes actors and actresses have those years where they just seemingly all their projects come out at the same time? I feel like she's had that in the last 2 to 3 years. She started in Euphoria alongside Zendaya initially, and then I think she's gone on to have some of her own standalone movies as well. However... all honestly, she's probably very, very popular because she has a nice set of womanly features, let's say the least, and she's quite happy to market them on Instagram. And have you seen Squanch soap advertised as a bloke?
No.
So it's the soap that's like for men, where it's like, don't use your typical deodorants and stuff. They hired her to sit in a bathtub with bubbles, covering only certain parts of her body, and talk about how soap will stop you being a dirty, dirty boy and get you very, very clean. There's a very specific audience I feel like a PR department are aiming for, and it's clearly working. And she's definitely an attractive lady, let's say the least. Yeah. But split fiction.
I keep hearing a name around, and it's like, but people talk as if you should know who the hell she is.
I mean, most of the world does at this point.
What's she been in?
Nothing that you'll watch, but again, the algorithm will get you. I'm telling you, the algorithm will get you. Yeah, maybe not for you, but there's an entire world of 20-something-year-olds out there who are absolutely gushing over this lady at the moment. So her being in a movie alongside another most likely attractive female in a quirky storyline like Split Fiction, I think could work quite well. It's got some good elements of comedy to it. So, yeah. Split fiction. Yeah, so do I. I need to find some time with the wife.
I think we're planning this afternoon to jump back in,
get some. But Split Fiction continues to do well.
So I might have the platinum by the time the show comes out.
I don't think I'll get it. I don't think my wife has that determination to get the platinum with me. But
I just bring my girlfriend. She'll help you.
It's all timings. But that aside, Richie brings us to an end for episode 89 of the GamerGuild Podcast, episode 460 in total on the channel. And we'll be back, of course, next week. We'll be back this week on Wednesday with our next episode of the Clicker Cast. So if you are into The Last of Us, if you've been watching along with the show, do join us live on Wednesday where we'll be breaking it down, talking about characters, development, plot, theory, game comparisons, and everything else in between. It's going to be a big episode because it's in there after the fallout of episode 2, so do join us for that one. We'll have another episode of Pokemon Blue going up as well, so you don't miss out on your gaming fix. And of course, follow us on social media, like, subscribe, ring a ding ding that bell so you're kept in the loop. Shout out to our guild heroes, who I forgot to mention earlier on when we talked about the news, actually, the wonderful folks who do support us that extra little bit further from as little as 99p. If you've listened to our content right up until this point, why not support us that little extra bit further? Stickers and badges next to your name in the chat, and also perks like access to Pokemon. I think there's 5 episodes currently available now, more to come in the future. But my name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
We've been GamerGuildTV. And as always, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.